Okay. So it is weird. We talk about like weird spirituality things, right? Okay. Fact checking is kind of a thing. So um, you can test to see if one of Elon Musk's houses in Saratoga, California, before he went on the campaign trail, had an upper level with a balcony with a swimming pool on it. That was not a 50-meter swimming pool. It's closer to 20 meters or 10, 15 meters. And whether or not, hang on, there was a room. So there's a room, and then there's the balcony that goes like that, and it overlooks a sort of like a forest, like you can see a lot of green from that perspective. So there's a room there, and then there's glass doors, and then there's and this is different from the other Saratoga house actually, or also some different floor. And there's a living area there that's sort of with like couches and stuff like that. And if you go in the other way, sort of like behind that, so there's a room, and then you go in but like that over there, there's sort of like almost kitchen like area. Um, so um um so um um the other thing too is it's so let's look at that, and let's talk about Pope Francis's childhood home. Okay, so Pope Francis had to pass through the portal, the Hades portal, to be able to get to where he was going, which is back to Argentina, because Hades portal has been retooled so that all the beings, when they decease, they go back to their ancestral country and don't and operate any realm. So he was instructed to go back to Argentina. It would appear some New Agers have been trying to keep him away from that by being child behaviour. But here's what his actual child. If this is fact checkable, please do it. So he lived there. When he grew up, he lived in Argentina. He didn't live by the beach. His grandparents lived about 50 kilometres inland from the beach, and his village was about 5 or 10 kilometres from the coast. He had a friend that lived 2 kilometres up the road who lived closer to the beach. The beach didn't have the beach wasn't really sort of like the kind where sunbakers go or anything like that. It was it had very cool water and very still waves. Um, and the house he grew up in, he had okay, try and get some objects to try and describe this. Okay, he had um, okay, so just imagine this this cigarette tube box. Okay, so he used subdivided his house up. Okay, there was a section about there's a section over here. Okay, that wasn't explored. There's a section here, that's the kitchen. Okay, and in this part, and there was a window here, and there was an old wood stove there with green doors on it there, and a table in the middle. Okay, with two chairs here, and one there. A door went out here into a hallway. If you went up there, it would take you to a different area. If you went here, just on this wall of the kitchen here. Okay, there's another wall there. There's a hallway here. You go here. Okay, this is a living area. So there's a fireplace over here. Okay, there's sort of couch. There's a couch over here, and a window over here. There's a window over here. There's no windows on this wall, and this spot here has a different area for formal dining. Okay, so that was his house. Behind his house, not on this side, on this side, but sort of further back off, was an alleyway. But so actually it was over here. There was an alleyway, and the friend that lived 2 kilometres up the road. So if you go in this direction, okay, if you go in this direction, you get towards the beach, and you go that way, that way, you get to his friend's house, and so they used to play sort of in the alleyway areas over there, he had an older sister. So Pope Francis had an older sister, who wasn't too keen on traditional gender roles, as it turns out, and was being scolded by her parents for doing so, because back in those days, having a traditional marriage and whatever else was considered the way forward for women. And so she was supposed to be sent to some kind of almost like a finishing school, but not quite. And she didn't really have an interest in that. He was his father kept a notebook that used to be on top of the wood stove. Okay, so his father used to keep a notebook that used to be on top of the wood stove, and he wasn't allowed to read it. So his older sister did wind up going through finishing school or something similar like that, get an education or whatever. Their version of education. Basically, finishing school is for those in the 21st century don't know, is they learn how to dress proper, prim and proper, and do the sewing and the housework and things like that, so they could be good wives, basically. And she wasn't too keen on that. So he came. He was the younger brother. Pope Francis, also known as George Borgelino, was the younger brother. Okay. And so that's where he grew up. So 2 kilometres this way. So the kitchen was here and stuff like that. The living room was there and stuff like that. You go 2 kilometres about that way. Okay, you get the ocean, which had very still water. Here we go. If you go this way, about 50 to 100 kilometres, you get where his grandfather grew up. Okay, so his grandfather grew up further inland. If someone can substantiate that, have a nice day.